it is time to create your first real-time application using Laravel, of course. And for this example, what we are going to do is to use a real-time notification system to show when a user logs in and when a user logs out. And for that, we need to add a, let's say, generic component to show notifications, even if it is success for login or danger for logout. So during this class, we are going to add that component, and we are going to do that easily using the layout that we already are using across the entire views of our Laravel project, because in that way, that specific component for the notification can be hiding or shown in every single view. Doesn't matter what is the location of the user, it is going to be available there and we can show it easily. So let's go to resources, views, and there we have the layouts for the app.blade.php. There you have the CSS, the CRF token, the meta tags mainly. You have the body, etc. And the most important component here is where it's defining the content for every single view. Every single view can specify its own content. So just in the top of that, we are going to add our generic component, and that is going to be very simple, in fact. So let's add just a div, and that div is going to have an ID because we need to reference easily that notification component from our JavaScript. So this is going to be called notification. And then let's add some styles to this. This is going to be, of course, an alert. This is from Bootstrap, and we are going to add some margin on the left and the right, let's say 3, and it is going to be invisible. So if we go to our project and check that in our browser, you can just refresh, you can see there exists a new space in the top because even when it is invisible, it is taking the space. So let's remove the invisible part just temporarily and add to say this is an alert success, for example. And let's add, for example, this is for login. So if we go there just to see how it looks, we can refresh and you can see login. And in the case of logout, we can show this instead of green, we can show the red, which is going to be achieved using alert danger. So if you check that, we are going to have this on red saying logout. So that is basically the logic behind this. If the user logs in, so we are going to have an alert success. And the message is going to say the user X logs in or is online or whatever message that you prefer. And in the case of logout, so we are going to have danger and the message is going to say the user X is offline. So that means that from the JavaScript and referencing this, once we receive the notification, the message on real time that this user log in or any user log out, we are going to change the classes, the styles of this element, and additionally we are going to show that because remember, this is by default an invisible component. So if we save here and refresh, it is going to be out, and we are going to remove the invisible class only when we are going to show, and we need to show that specific notification with some content and some styles. So yes, that's all. You already have the generic component that we are going to use on real time receiving the notifications. But of course, there are some additional things that we need to do to communicate the Laravel events for the login or the logout and our frontend with Laravel Echo to listen to that specific events and know what to do. So let's do that in the following classes of this section. See you there. During this class, you are going to create your first event for, well, notify when a user logs in or logs out. And this is a very important or special, let's say, event because this event should be broadcasted on real time. Results that there exist a lot of events on Laravel. In fact, Laravel itself manages internally several events for login, for logout, for creation, deletion, updated, etc. You have a lot of events, but not all of those events, or basically none of those events, are broadcasted on real time. So what we are going to do is to create an event that is going to be a regular event, but then we are going to add the capability to be broadcasted on real time for that. So that means that once we dispatch, once we trigger that event, Laravel is going to check and realize that that event must be broadcasted for a specific channel and using a specific characteristic that we are going to see right now. So to create an event, we can use PHP Artisan. And you can see that we have a huge group for make components, for create a command, a controller, a model, a listener, and of course, to create an event, as you can see here. So we can use make event with PHP Artisan and specify a name for that event. And this is going to be user session changed. With this, well, we are saying that we are going to trigger, let's say, or to broadcast in this case, that event when the session of the user changed in some way, is logged in or is logged out. Those are basically the changes that we are going to consider. So let's press enter, and after that we can go to app, and there exists a new folder which is events containing, of course, the user session change. So this is a regular event. At this point, this event is not going to be broadcasted, but it is going to be very easy to tell to Laravel that this event is a special event that needs to be broadcasted. And that is just implementing an interface that is called should broadcast. So let's implement that. And of course, you can see that the definition comes from Illuminate Contracts Broadcasting. If we open the definition of this interface, you can see that the only thing that we have to do is to define a method called broadcast on. And in fact, we already have it there. And this method is going to specify what is going to be done once this event needs to be broadcasted. And there appears the concept about channels. The channels have functionalities, let's say ways to work, and have a channel name. So the channel name is exactly here. We can specify, for example, that the name of this channel is notifications. And the way to work of this channel depends on the instance or the class that we are returning here. In this case, we are returning a private channel, but there exist public channel and presence channels as well. We are going to talk about all of those channels during the course, of course, and use all of them in different scenarios. But in this case, we are going to start with the simplest one, which is a public channel. And a public channel is just returning an instance of channel. It is not public channel. It is not any other name, just channel. So be sure to import the definition of this just in case directly from Illuminate Broadcasting Channel. And once you have that, so you are saying to your event that once it is broadcasted, it should be broadcasted in a public channel, and that channel is called notification. And once we go to the frontend, you are going to see the connection between these, because we need to specify to Laravel echo the name of the channel to be listening on. But of course, that is going to be in a following class. For now, once we have this, we need to be sure, well, what we are going to broadcast, what we are going to send, what is the content of this event once it is dispatched on real time. Well, for this, we are going to add several attributes. We need the message saying if the user log in, if the user log out, and the message should be, let's say, dynamic, because the name of the user that logs in or logs out must be different eventually. So we need to specify that in the constructor, and we need to use properties, because results that any public property or attribute that this class has is going to be broadcasted automatically by Laravel on real time. If you have a protected or private property, it is not going to be broadcasted. But any other that you have as public is going to be public, let's say, in the event. That means it's going to be broadcasted. So we need the message for this, but not only the message. We need to determine if it is a danger, basically for logout, or a success for login, red or green. So we need a type. So in this case, we can receive, once we are going to dispatch or to broadcast this event, to specify the message in the constructor and the type. And of course, it is going to be established for the properties or the values or the attributes. So we just establish the value of the message based on the value that we receive as a parameter on the constructor, and of course, the same for the type. So at this point, once this event is dispatched, is broadcasted on real time using a public channel called notifications, we are going to have in the other side, in the front end, as you are going to see in the following class, in this section, of course, available immediately the message and the type that are being established from the application. So at this point, you have this event perfectly configured, perfectly prepared, and we can continue in the following classes to see how to dispatch this eventually and how to listen for that and show the messages and the information to the users. See you there. So this is the matter. Basically, at this point, you have an event that you can dispatch at any moment. That's pretty cool. But when are you exactly going to dispatch that? You know that is going to be when login or when logout. But how can you handle that? How do you know when a user logs in or when a user logs out? So fortunately for you, Laravel takes care of that. Laravel is going to throw or trigger, let's say, an event when a user logs in and an event when a user logs out. So you just need to, let's say, listen to that event and dispatch or basically broadcast your new event, the one that can be broadcasted on real time with a specific message depending of one or other. So Laravel is going to take care of you, is going to dispatch an event, but that event is not directly broadcasted on real time. So you need to listen one event to then broadcast on real time another event from the session changes. And for that, we just need to create a listener. In fact, two different listeners. One to be executed once the users log in, and the other one once the user logs out. So let's go to create our listeners, and you might be guessing good. We are going to use PHP Artisan again from our command prompt. And there exists something called make listener. There, we just need to specify a name for that listener. In this case, we are going to start with the user login 1. And as the name says, once this listener is executed, this is going to broadcast the user login notification using the event that we already created. So let's press enter, and there we have a new folder into our app folder as well, which is listeners. There we have the broadcast user login notification. So what it is going to do? Well, not a lot. We just need to handle the definition of an event. And what is the event in this case? Well, it is just login. So let's type hinting this. Be sure to import the definition. We have this coming directly from Illuminate out events login. And then we are going to handle what to do once we have a login event. Well, we just need to broadcast our own event because we are going to dispatch this on real time sending the message. So we are going to dispatch or broadcast a new instance of the message or the event that we created on a previous class, which is user session changed. Let's import the definition. And remember, this event needs to receive two things. The first one is the message and the second one is the type. So the type in the case of login is going to be success, and the message is going to be a little different because it is going to depend on the user. And fortunately, for this login event, we can get access to the user. So let's just start with that. We have the event. Then we can access the user and the name of that user. So it is going to say John Doe, test1, test2, whatever the name of the user is. And we are going to say this name is online. That is the message. That's all that we are going to broadcast here. So basically, this is going to be the same logic in the case of the logout. We are going now not to listen to login, we are going to listen to logout, which is a different event. So let's go just to duplicate this because it's going to be very similar. But of course, the name now is broadcast user logout notification. So let's copy that. Be sure to change the name of the class here. And then we are going to receive again an instance of logout. Be sure to import the definition. This is coming basically from the same location of login. You can see there. And we just need logout, of course. So there we are going to dispatch or broadcast a user session change, which is good. But this time, the type of this message or this change is danger. To get that in red, and of course we are saying that the user with that specific name is not online, is of course offline. So with this we have the listeners for that, but how can we say to Laravel which listener to execute with what event? Well, we can do that directly in our providers, directly in the event service provider. There you can say which listener to execute after what event. In this case, you can see an example when the event registered is executed. Well, Laravel is going to dispatch a listener or called, basically a listener sent email verification notification. So we are going to follow basically the same. This time we are going to do that for the login event. Once again, be sure to import the definition of login. And the only one listener that we are going to dispatch is broadcast user login notification. Once again, be sure to import the definition. That is it. And we are going to do basically the same for the logout. So we have logout as the event. And the listener that we are going to call is broadcast user logout notification. Once again, be sure to import the definition of the event and of the listener. So there you have all the definitions. And once we have this, Laravel knows what to execute once the user logs in and once the user logs out. And then this is going to broadcast the event that we have there. So let's do debug a little. Let's see how it is working, not in real time yet, but how it is working on the backend in the way that we can be sure that this is being thrown or basically handled when that events happen. So for that, let's go to our original event and we are going to add some debug message in the log. So let's call to log debug. Be sure to add this backslash at the beginning. You don't have to import the definition. This is just a temporal method. And there we are going to show the message and basically the same for the type. So once the user logs in, we are going to broadcast or call the broadcast user login notification listener, and this is going to broadcast the user session changed with this message and this type. So let's go to do it. If we go to login, we have a user created, which is test1. Let's log in. And it looks like I have a little error, let's say. It's saying undefined variable message on this line. And yes, of course, because I'm now referencing that as the attributes from the class. So let's go there. This should be using this and referencing the attributes instead. So let's go back. Let's refresh. I'm going to log out and log in again. So at this point, we registered the logout event and let's register the login one. So if we go to our log, which is located on storage logs, laravel.log, we can go to the bottom after the error definition here. And you can see first, the login one, test1 is online, and the logout one, test1 is offline. Now, if you are saying this, that means that the drivers is still being the log. And that is pretty natural because even when we have the .m file saying pusher, if you didn't stop your PHP artisan serve, like me, so you just need to stop that, of course, and start it again. And then this server is going to take into care the latest definition and configuration of the project. That means that if I remove all this content, just to be clear on this, and try to, for example, log out, you are going to see this being broadcasted even when there is nothing listening. And you can see test1 is offline and the type is danger. So this is working. This is broadcasting the event And now we need to be sure to listen to that from the front end and execute the corresponding actions. So let's see how to do that in the following class. See you there. So it is moment of truth because we are going to see working the real-time interaction with the user from the JavaScript side. It means from the front end. And well, at this point, all the backend broadcasting, all the backend event dispatching, listeners, etc. are working very good when the user logs in and when the user logs out. But now we need to take care of the appearances of the user interface to listen to that element and execute specific actions on that. And fortunately for that, we are going to take a lot of advantage of Laravel Echo. So remember, the JavaScript is located, the JavaScript that you can modify is on resources.js and the app.js. This one is using the required for Bootstrap file, which is here. And there you have the definition of pusher, of echo, Axios, definition of Bootstrap, Popper, etc. But of course, the main one that we want to use in this case for real-time notifications and to listen to that is Laravel Echo. And that can be done through window echo or basically echo. So if we go to app.js, we can start customizing our JavaScript code. So we can use Laravel Echo, basically with echo. And there is two things that we have to define at least. The channel, and we use the channel method from echo when we are in a public channel. If we are in a private channel or in a presence channel, as we are going to see in following classes, this needs to be different. But for now, we are in this channel. And what channel? Well, the public channel that we call notifications. This is very important to match with the name of the channel that you specified in the event. Remember, in user session change, you specify the name of the channel is notifications. In fact, as we already know that this is working, we don't need now the log debug lines, and we can keep it simple, just broadcasting to a public channel called notifications. So this is exactly what we are listening here, or we are basically getting into this channel. And then we need to listen to a specific event. And what is the event? Exactly this, that the user session changed. This is the name of the event. So we just need to put the name of the class there. And Laravel Echo is going to take care of make the bridge between the event that we dispatched and this. We don't need to add the whole namespace or something like that. No, you just need to specify the name of the class. And then we need to specify the action that wants to be executed when this event is listened from this channel. So we need to specify a closure. We are going to use an arrow function here. Receiving the event. The event contains the information that is being sent from this user session change. And what are these? Well, this is the message and this is the type. All of them are public, so from this event we are going to get access for the message and for the type. So we have this action, and what we are going to do? Well, first we are going to interact with the element that we defined for the notification. Remember, when we add in the view layout, we created an element with an ID which is notification. So we are going to reference this specific element. And we're going to do that using pure JavaScript. So we have document, get element by ID. And there we are going to specify that specific ID. So let's put this in a constant. And once we have that element, so we are going to change the content of that element with the message that we receive. It means user login or user logout. So let's use notification element that inner text. That is going to be equals to the message that we receive in the event, and that can be e.message. Once it is there, we need to play a little with the styles. First, remember this element is invisible, as you can see here, so we need to remove the class. So let's use once again notification element. We get access to the list of class, and then we are going to remove one specific class. What class? Well, the invisible one. After we remove this, so that element is going to be visible. But then we need to remove any other classes. Remember, this element can be success or danger. And possible, when the user logs in, we are going to add the class of success. But then, when the user logs out, we need to add the class of danger. So after that two possibilities, we will have an element with success and danger. So every time that we have an event here, we are going to remove the previous ones, both of them. So let's remove that. This is for success. And this is for danger. Now, the last step is possible, the most important in the visual components for the user, because we are going to add the class that defines if it is danger or if it is success. So we have alert dash, but then comes the dynamic part depending of the type of the event. So we have e.type, and this is going to be, remember, success or danger that comes directly from the listener that are sending that types. So we just need to say alert success or alert danger depending of the event itself. So if everything is okay, we should go to our command prompt because we changed our JavaScript and we need to compile again using npm run that. If everything is okay, so we should be able to go to our browser, and what I'm going to do now is first to refresh here. You can check the console if you prefer, there is no error. And I'm going to open an incognito mode here to show you working this on real time for different users. So the user on the left is going to log in right now using test1. We can log in, and you can see how the user on the right receives immediately the notification even when it is not online. Let's say it is not authenticated on our system. And now if it log out, so it is going to see the exact same notification. Let's register, for example, the test2 user. So you can see how automatically the user on the left receives the notification because test2 is online now because was logged in, triggered the notification, triggered the event, and it was broadcasted. Now, if any of those users is logged out, let's say for example test2, you are going to see how the color change and the message change automatically on real time. So yes, congratulations, you already created your first real-time system using real-time notifications. But there is much more to do. And as you are going to see, probably you are wondering why I'm seeing this even when the user is not online. You can see if the user on the left logs out, the user on the right is going to see the notification even when this user is not logged in, is not an authenticated user. So we are going to see, let's say, how to resolve that in case that you want to show real-time notifications only to authorized users. And we are going to introduce the concept of private channels. So yes, currently you have a perfectly functional real-time notification system, your first real-time application using Laravel, of course, and through the characteristics of Laravel Echo, it is going to be very easy. Now, probably a little issue that you may realize is that even when the user is not authenticated, it is capable to check the notifications when a user logs in or logs out. And probably for you, this doesn't make sense because, well, you don't want that any, let's say, foreign user without getting authenticated can see when your real users get in or get out. So, well, we are going to solve that, and in the way we are going to introduce the concepts of private channel, because the private channel requires an authenticated user to work, and we need to do that first, changing the kind of channel that we are going to return from our event, then the way to listen for the event, and there is a third characteristic, a third requirement that we need here, because we need to specify to Laravel how to determine if a user has access to a channel or not. So let's just start first in our event, of course in app events folder, And there in the user session changed at the bottom, of course, we need to change from channel to private channel. Remember to import the definition directly from Illuminate Broadcasting. You can see the definition just at the top. And the name of the channel is still being the same. We are not going to change that. We are just changing the type of the channel. So once it is done, just save, go to the JavaScript, and there we cannot use channel. We must use private. In that way, Laravel Echo knows that needs to establish a different way to connect, because first, before to establish the connection, needs to authenticate that specific channel. So there it comes the new characteristic, the new feature that we need to take care. Remember, from a previous class, when we registered the routes for the channels, well, we need to go there to routes, channels.php, and there we need to specify the logic to say when a user can log in or not to that specific channel. So let's copy this. Then the broadcast channel function is going to receive the name of the channel, and then into a closure we need to define the true or false condition to let's allow a user to connect to that channel. So the name of the channel is still being the same, which is notifications. And then we are going to receive here at least the name, or basically the instance of the user that we have authenticated in the system. And there is the logic. If there is not any user authenticated, so we are going to return false, and this is going to be null. And if it is authenticated, so we are going to have an instance, it's not going to be null, and we can allow the access. Then you can see here that we are receiving an additional parameter, but that comes from a parameter on the name of the channel. Of course, as usual, we are going to explore that in a future class. For now, let's keep it simple, and we are just receiving the currently authenticated user. So the only thing that we have to do is to return the verification if this user instance is null or not, which is going to be translated, let's say, if this user is authenticated or no. So we just need to say if user is different from null. If it is null, we don't have an authenticated user. In other case, we are going to allow this user to connect there. So as we changed our JavaScript, yes, once again, we need to go to our command prompt and run npm run dev. And once the process is done, if everything is okay, we should be able to go to any of our browsers, go to refresh, and you can see if you inspect how every one of them is getting an error now because they are getting forbidden access to this specific channel. Even when this is a channel that is present across the entire application, they are getting forbidden. They are getting no access to this channel because of the logic that we just defined. So if this user log in, let's say for example test1 in the left, so you can see how the error disappears. Now this user on the left is connected to the channel and is capable to receive notifications, and you can see how the user on the right didn't receive anything even when this user logs in. Now, if the user on the right goes and log in, let's say for example with test2, so the user on the left is going to see the notification because he was already connected to this channel and is capable to receive the messages in real time. Then, if the user on the right logs out, so the user on the left is going to see the real-time notification again because he still is connected. And now, if this user test1 on the left logs out, the user on the right cannot see anything because, well, he cannot be connected to this specific channel. So yes, congratulations. At this point, you are capable to control the authentication process from our user to connect to a specific channel. We just introduced the private channels, and we can start creating another feature, and we can start creating and experimenting with several other applications on real time, as we are going to see in the following sections to explore, again, public, private, and presence channels, which are the ones that we are not exploring yet. But of course, that is going to be at that moment when we have a real cool example for that. See you in the following section.